All right, guys, welcome back to week 2 of skate class. I hope you enjoyed our little skate history videos. I know I enjoyed making them. This week, though, we're going to mix it up. We're going to actually talk about skateboarding. And to do so, we're going to have to select a different character. We're going to call in our friend Coach, and he's going to give you a rundown on all the basics to get started. For those of you that already know this, I encourage you to go through it anyway and try it all switch, because it never hurts to learn things switch. And as a gentle reminder, it's okay to be frustrated, it's okay to be sad, it's okay to be angry, it's okay to fall down, but try not to give up. Skateboarding is about perseverance and fun. As long as you're having fun on your board, you're doing it right. So before we get started, it's important to go over a couple base terms so that you know what we're talking about during our tutorials. The way in which we stand on our board has two options. There's regular footed or goofy footed. A regular stance consists of your left foot forward. Goofy foot stance is right foot forward. When we're riding our boards, we have two ways to turn. We don't use left and right. We use front side and back side. A front side turn opens the front of your body in the direction you're moving, whereas a back side is going to be the opposite. Other than that, there's a few nuances and a lot of tricks that involve our riding styles. If you're a regular footed rider and you're riding goofy, that's called switch. If you're a regular footed rider but you're riding backwards on your board, we call that fakie. And lastly, if you're riding on your board, but rather than being on your tail, you're forward with your front foot on your nose, we call that an ollie. These different styles allow you to replicate the same trick in 6 to 8 different ways, depending on how you want to do it. And for the sake of clarity, we want to make sure you're comfortable with those terms before we move forward. So go ahead, we're going to select another player, and we're going to talk about the basics of skateboarding. All right, bring it in, take a knee. This week, we're going to teach y'all how to ride your skateboards. We're going to start today's lesson plan off with the most important part of any good skate session. That's right, I'm talking about stretches. So we're going to go through our stretch routine, making sure that we're nice and warmed up. After that, like I mentioned, we're doing basics today. We're going to be talking about stopping, foot braking, tail slides, power slides. We're going to talk about your foot placement, making sure you know how to get on and off your board safely. And then we'll move into some basic tricks. We're going to look at kick turns today, and we're going to wrap things up with the ollie. So let's get those hammies stretched out and get to it. All right, we're going to get warmed up because we don't want to pull any of our muscles. So we're going to do our alchemy stretch routine, the same one we do every week. It's tried and true. There are many ways that you can stretch to warm up for skateboarding. They are not limited to these stretches, but these are the ones that we like to use. And so we're going to start things off just like we always do. We're going to do some neck rolls. So we want to make sure our neck is nice and stretched out by rolling our head in a nice circle. Then we're going to stop and we're going to go the other direction. All right, excellent. Feeling loose already. So after our necks are stretched out, we want to warm up our shoulders. So we're going to take our right arm across. Left arm comes under, we squeeze, and we're going to hold that for 4 seconds. All right, switch it up. Left arm across, right arm squeeze, 4 seconds. Perfect. All right, we're working from the top down. So we want to make sure our lower back is nice and ready to skate. Because we use our hips, we use our back to keep our balance. So we're going to spread our feet out about shoulders width into what we call the power stance. Once we're in our power stance, we're going to put our arms out to the side, and we're going to twist in the middle. This is going to help loosen up our lower back. Excellent. Moving from here, staying in our power stance. We're going to put our arms out, and this is an 80s classic. We're taking right hand down across the body to that left toe, keeping our knees straight, holding it for another 2 seconds, and switch it up. Right arm down to that left toe, holding it for another 2 seconds. Now we want to get those hammies. So we're going to go straight down to the ground, and the important part here, reach as far back as you can through your legs, and you're going to feel that stretch working. It's important to note when we're stretching, we don't want to hurt our bodies. It's okay to feel a little pressure, but if the stretches hurt, we're probably doing them wrong. So make sure we feel a little bit of pressure, but we don't want to get injured during stretches. That's what skateboarding's for. Moving on, we want to go ahead and make sure our quads are nice and warmed up. So we're going to take right foot into right hand, holding it for just a quick 2 seconds. Get the left foot. One more round just to be sure. Excellent, and we're almost through. Next up, we want to make sure our ankles are ready to go. We want to roll them now on purpose rather than rolling them accidentally while we're skating. So we're going to go up on our right toe, and we want to just make nice small circles that are going to loosen up all the tendons in that joint. so we can use them. And go ahead and send it over to the left foot whenever you feel ready. Oh, excellent. Finally, the most important stretch that we teach here at Alchemy. It's important for several reasons. I'll go over them after. But if you've done our skate classes, you know this stretch. It's time to bring it around town. We're going to go into our power stance. We're going to put our hands on our hips, and we are going to stare off into the distance as we bring it around town. It's very important. This is not a silly stretch. No giggling, no laughing. Super serious face. And we're going to stop, and we're going to go the other direction. All right, so the number one reason we teach that stress, we'll cut that. The number one reason we teach that stretch is it is very important when we're skateboarding to accept the fact that we look ridiculous. I find it's much easier to take that head on, and if you're out in a public park feeling a little uneasy, I highly recommend find the highest obstacle in the park, climb up on it, and bring it around town. It's going to prove to everyone at the skate park that you've got nothing to prove and even less to lose. So try it out if you're feeling weird, see what it does. But we are officially warmed up and ready to start skateboarding. Let's get it. All right, we're all stretched out and we're ready to skateboard. But the first thing we're going to talk about today is, I think, one of the most important skills that you can learn while skateboarding and often overlooked. That's right, I'm talking about falling down. This is a critical and crucial skill to learning how to skateboard because it is not a matter of if, it is a matter of when. We all fall on our skateboards, that's how we learn. But there's a few best practices that are going to keep you out of the ER and get you back on your board. Rule number one, when we're falling, your hands are a great option to cushion the fall as opposed to your face. But common injuries occur when we lock our elbows and lock our wrists. It's going to put all of the impact of our fall right into our delicate joints. So when we're falling, I like to tell people, your arms are spaghetti. You want to make sure that as you're falling to the ground, they are absorbing your fall. That way you're going to minimize chances of injuries to the wrists or elbows. Next up, for falling down, it's really, really, really important that you try to look where you're going when you fall. If you can spot your landing, chances are you'll be able to roll out of it just fine. Which brings me to another thing about falling, tuck and roll. There's a time to do it and a time not to do it. If you find yourself out skating the hills, picking up speed, we never recommend tuck and roll at high speeds because what happens is you will continue to roll, and this is going to create additional opportunities to injure your head, elbows, knees, all those joints. When we're going at high speeds, we like to spread out and slide. Sure, we're going to lose a little bit of skin and sacrifice it to the skate gods, but skin grows back faster than injuries to our joints. So, high speeds, spread out and slide. However, if we're going in a skate park and more of a slow speed, tuck and roll is a great option to channel that energy away from the ground and forward. And so now, I will demonstrate to you the proper way to tuck and roll. When anticipating a tuck and roll, it's much like all falls. We want to cushion the fall with our hands, but as we tuck and roll, we're going to tuck our shoulder, roll over, and a lot of times we can end on our feet. So I'll demonstrate a proper tuck and roll for you. Let's say we're skating, having a great time, we hit a rock, we fall. Tuck and roll. The last thing we want to think about when we're falling, again, not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, is the idea of our mental confidence. When we're falling, it's okay to be scared, but the more we resist the fall, the more often we tend to get hurt. So, as hard as it is, try to stay relaxed during your fall because the body that bends seldom breaks. So again, lean into that fear. Don't be afraid of the fall. Know it's going to happen. Respond well. Roll it out. Bend your elbows. You're going to be all right. So, you've stretched. You've dealt with the immeasurable fear of falling down. We're ready to start riding our skateboards. I'm going to point out right now the common places to put your feet, and in our experience, they work best for beginners and advanced riders, but just like building ramps, just like anything else with skateboarding, there are millions of ways to do them. We here do not believe this is the only way. It's simply the way that's worked for us. So feel free to adjust this, but I'm going to show you the Alchemy best practices for getting on our board. Most skateboards, whether you know it or not, do have a distinct nose and tail. Again, it's skateboarding. Ride it however you want, but my board here is shaped so I can see I have a square nose and a rounded tail. It's going to help me keep the board rolling forward. Starting out, we like to put our front foot on the board first. We're going to bring it up, and we want our toes to step right on these bolts. If we're too far forward on our board, when we press down on our toe, we're going to lift, we're going to fall. So again, keep those toes right on our back bolts up there. So this is our starting position. We like to have our feet relatively squared, front foot on the bolts. Now I'm going to pretend to push here. When we're pushing, all of our weight is on our board side leg. Once we're ready to put our back foot on the board, we want to make sure it lands squarely on the tail and perpendicular to the board. This way, the only thing left to do is pivot our front foot, and we are ready to ride. To get off of our board, it's the simple reversal of those steps. We're going to pivot our front foot forward, which squares our shoulders up and allows us to step off of the board. Go ahead, take a few minutes, and I recommend making sure you are comfortable getting your feet on and off your board. If this challenge is incredibly easy for you, I recommend practicing switch. Now that we know where to put our feet on the board, we're going to talk about putting a little speed behind it. That's right, pushing. Once we've got our front foot squarely on our bolts ready to go, we are going to push off of our back leg and we're going to transfer our weight onto our board side leg so that we can comfortably put that back foot right on the tail. It's going to look something like this. Common problems from pushing usually arise from a lack of confidence in our board side leg. So if you're struggling to get that back foot in place and maintain your balance, we've got two wonderful exercises that you can practice. Exercise 1 involves putting our front foot on those bolts and pushing to get comfortable with the motion. Don't even worry about that back foot, just push your way all the way across the park. Tip number 2, as that starts to feel comfortable, is to set that front foot on those bolts again, and as you push off of your roadside leg, I challenge you to balance on one leg for as long as you can. That's going to build up muscles, dexterity, and strength. That's going to keep you balanced and give you more time to get that back foot on the board. So, a common problem a lot of people face is they're struggling to get that back foot comfortably on the board. We see it all the time with beginning riders. We're pushing, we're feeling okay, but when it comes time to change our stance, that back foot tends to jump right to our front foot. When our feet are together, we have terrible balance, and it also doesn't look very good. So again, practice that long one-foot push or the one-foot balance, because as you build up the muscles in this leg, it's going to be easier to take your time placing that back foot right where you want it, and then you're ready to ride. Now that we've learned how to start pushing on our skateboard, we're going to teach you something equally, if not more important, and that's how to stop on our skateboard. There's a variety of ways to control your speed as you're going down hills, including foot braking, tail drags, power slides, and the least preferred but most often practiced, jump and run. So we're going to break down these 4 different skills for you so you can practice them in a flat controlled area so that when you need to do them on a steep hill, you're ready for it. So the first and most useful way to control your speed is what we call foot braking. We're going to break it down for you right now. So imagine, if you will, that we are riding our skateboard forward. We are getting too much speed, we're starting to feel uncomfortable, and we want to control that speed. So what we're going to do is pivot our front foot forward as if we were stepping off of the board. And the most important part of the foot brake is you're not going to step down on the ground. As the ground is moving, it will pull you off your board. So as soon as you've pivoted your front foot, hang your roadside leg off with your toe pointed up, and your board side knee is going to bend slowly, letting your foot gently touch the ground. As soon as your foot's sliding, you can apply more pressure to it, and it's going to slow you down faster. My favorite way to practice the foot brake, once again, is by riding as often as you can on one leg. The stronger and more comfortable your board side leg is, the easier it is going to be to slowly apply that pressure for your foot brake. Foot brakes. Foot braking is great and all, but I hear you. What are the other ways that I can slow down and stop on my board? Well, for starters, you can do what's called a tail drag. As you're riding your skateboard, both feet on, and you need to slow down, bending your front knee and stepping down with your tail is going to allow your board to slide to a stop. This is not a preferred method, as it creates an unnecessary amount of wear and tear on your tail, resulting in what we call razor tail. So if you want to keep your board fresh, but you love doing tail drags to control your speed, what I recommend is hanging your back foot off of your tail, so rather than sliding the wood, you can catch a little bit of your heel and slide your heel on the ground, thusly not ruining your skateboard. Tail drags. The third method for speed control is somewhat more advanced and a little bit difficult, but as you become a more confident and competent rider, it's a great skill to have, and it is the skill of power sliding. To power slide on your board, you're going to be rolling straight down a hill, using your back foot to kick the tail of your board out sideways. Your urethane wheels are going to stop rolling, and they're going to start sliding. As the urethane on your wheels slides against the pavement, the friction it creates is going to slow you down. In general, a very hard wheel, as found on most skateboards, is not going to give you very much relief from speed. That hard material is going to continue sliding. That's going to slow you down a little bit. In the world of longboarding and soft wheels, that much softer urethane is going to create more friction, and it's going to slow you down a lot faster. But because the wheel is softer, it's going to be harder to break free initially, so a lot of trial and error is involved in learning how to power slide. The last method of stopping is one that's very important to note. While it's our least favorite in practice, it is often the one most utilized by people learning to skateboard. That's right, we're talking about jump and run. Let's say you find yourself on a hill picking up more speed than you feel comfortable with. The common response is to jump ship and hop off your board. This can work out, this cannot work out. A lot of it depends on how you leave your board and what you're expecting out of the ground as you land on it. Key factors of jump and run involve knowing you're going to have to run as fast as you are riding. If you expect to be able to just jump off your board and land on the ground, your face will land on the ground and you will not have a good time. So it's important to remember with jump and run, as you jump off of your board, you want to be jumping forward and you want to be prepared to run. Again, it is not a preferred method, but it's an important one to learn. The other thing to note is how we jump off our board. So as we're rolling, we do not want to simply sidestep off of our board. We want to transfer weight to our front foot so we can jump forward and push the board back behind us so it doesn't run us over.